What is up guys, my name is Ignas, welcome back to the channel. This week I did a dividend comparison on 3 large semiconductor equipment manufacturing names, and there was one stock that showed the best fundamentals. That name is Lam Research, ticker symbol LRCX. So today I want to take a deeper look into this particular stock. Recently it hasn't been performing well, and the year to date the stock is down for 38.56%. 1 year's performance is not that much better, minus 31.11%. But they did show growth in the last 5 years, going from $141 in 2017, 3xing in 5 years to $445 per share, up for 215.14%. With the stock selling this year, price to earnings is coming lower now at 13.93, and in turn the dividend yield is going higher now at 1.45%. So to have a more thorough look, we'll be taking fundamentals and financial ratios, then check where analysts think the stock will be trading next year. After that, what Superinvestors and insiders are doing with it. And lastly, we'll go through the technicals of the price chart. Let's see how good this name really is. First part, I want to check his revenue, and we have the history of the last 5 years. Back in 2017, they were bringing in $7.2 billion on the trailing 12 months. Then in a year in 2018, that increased to $10.3 billion. In 2019, we saw a bit of a decrease to $10.4 billion, and in 2020 another decrease to under $10 billion at $9.6. But after that there was some consistent growth. 2021 the company brought in $13.2 billion on the trailing 12 months, and with the most recent quarter in, it is now at $16.7 billion. So there was a bit of a slowdown in 2019, where we saw a year-over-year quarterly decrease of 24.5%, from over $3 billion to just over $2 billion, but then revenue has been consistently increasing each quarter, with the largest being Q3 of 2021 at $4.3 billion. The only issue I find is that the last 2 quarters were going lower. We are still higher year over year, but if the trend continues like that, we could be in for some red quarters ahead. Now let us switch to price to earnings. So in 2017 the PE was at 15.08. Then in 2018, with the price moving a bit higher, price to earnings increased to 18.29. 2019, as the price was going sideways and earnings increased, price to earnings went down to 10.76. Then in 2020 we saw the price moving higher, so price to earnings went up to 16.84. And in 2021, with the price still surging, price to earnings peaked at 24.83. Now this year, with the stock price going lower, we are now looking at a price to earnings at 14.08. So for the last 2 years we saw the price to earnings at way over 15, and it was only below that somewhere in the middle of 2019. So buying into the stock right now, we aren't getting the lowest dividend in 5 years, but it is now in the levels that we saw more than 3 years back. Next is the number of shares outstanding. Back in 2017 it was at 185 million shares. Then in a year we saw a 2.7% decrease to 180 million. The decreases accelerated in 2019 to 158 million shares outstanding, lower for 12.22% year over year. Then another decrease in 2020 to 148 million, lower for 6.33%. And even though the decreases slowed down there, they still kept on buying back shares. In 2021 the number decreased to 145 million shares, and with the most recent quarter in, the number is now at 140 million. So they did increase the shares a bit back in 2017, but other than that the pattern is clear. So in 5 years they managed to buy back 4 to 5 million shares, which at the current price of $445 per share is a buyback in 5 years of over $20 billion. Now the next metric is the dividend yield. So back in 2017, Lam Research paid $1.66 in dividends, which was at a yield of 1.04%. Then in a year in 2018, the payout increased to $3, so the dividend yield shot up to 2.05%. Even though the payout kept on increasing in 2019, now to $4.26 per share, the stock price also went up, so the yield went lower to 1.91%. And unfortunately that pattern continued on, even though they kept on increasing dividends to $4.64 in 2020, the price was also moving way higher, so we saw the yield at 1.4%, And then in 2021, with the price topping at $675 per share, even though the dividend payout was at $5.55, we saw the dividend yield bottoming at 0.82%. Now this year, with the price going lower and the payout being increased to almost $6, we have the dividend yield at 1.43%. So Lam Research has been increasing dividends consistently, quicker in 2018, but very consistent over these years. Unfortunately, buying right now, we won't be getting the best yield. To check on that, we'll use my watchlist on Google Sheets. So this is here my dividend investing watchlist, and we are in this tab for Lam Research. This is that same dividend yield history for each quarter of the last 5 years, and we calculated that on average in 5 years the dividend yield was at 1.44%. So in 2017, with the dividend yield at 1.02%, we had it under average for 29.10%. Then in 2018, with the dividend payout surging up, the yield went higher to 2.52%, which is over average for 75.17%. Then in 2019, with the price going higher, we saw the yield coming lower to 1.66%, 15.39% over average. And then in 2020 it dropped under at 0.95%, below average for 33.96%, with the bottom in 2021 at 0.81%, under the 5-year average for 43.69%. But with this year's sell-off, the dividend yield is moving higher now at 1.36%, so it's still below but not that far away from the average at minus 5.46%. Now, if you would be interested in doing a similar analysis for yourself, you are able to access this watchlist by following the first link at the top of the description. Otherwise, feel free to add a ticker symbol in a comment below, and I'll consider adding that into the watchlist myself. Maybe you could share some interesting opportunities out there that I'm still missing. So we've looked into the history, but how about expectations? Where do analysts think the stock will be trading at next year? Here we have information on 23 price targets of analysts. The targets range from $520 to $840 per share, and on average the price is set at $628.36. Now we know that currently the stock is trading at $442.31 per share. This means that on average, analysts predict that next year the stock price should be going up by 42.1%. Now let us take another angle. Here we have earnings estimates for next year from 25 analysts, and on average they predict that next year Lam Research will be bringing $38.01 in earnings per year. So if we assume that the price to earnings ratio remains the same, then we may expect that next year the stock price will be going up by 19.9%. So it seems that analysts are quite bullish, in 2023 expecting LRCX going up from 20 to 40%. Now let's move to Superinvestors. It looks like currently only 2 funds are holding Lam Research, so one of those is Maverick Capital, where they now have 140,000 shares, valued at over $75 million, but that is a low part of their portfolio at 1.45%. And the worst part is that they have reduced their position by almost 50%. And then there is also Davis Advisors. They are holding 1.3 thousand shares, valued at $660,000. And it seems that that is a very small part of their portfolio, not even making 0.01%. So overall we could say that Superinvestors are bearish on it. But now let's check insiders. In the last 6 months they did one buying transaction, buying $800,000 worth of stock, but unfortunately they did sell 8 times, totaling at almost $12 million. So it seems that insiders are selling around 15 more times than they are buying, which again looks quite bearish to me. Now for the last part, let's take the price chart. The stock peaked back in January of 2022 with $730 per share, but after that kept going lower. In a week it dropped under the 200-day moving average, and in a few more trading days reached the 300 one. Traded under for almost a month, but then as the 50-day moving average started pressing on the 100 and then crossed, the stock also sell off for another week. Then we saw it going up to that 50-day moving average to around $550 per share, but that proved to be a decent resistance, with the stock losing around $100 per share, reaching a bit of a support at $450. For the next few months we had some sideways action, with the price breaking over the 50-day moving average for a week, but the resistance of the 100 held through, and the stock dropped back to $440 per share. Now what I find interesting is that the relative strength index is still under 50 at 44, and we should be getting a bullish crossover in the lines of the MACD. Additionally, all the moving average crossovers already happened, so those shouldn't be giving us much problems going further. So now that we've looked through all the steps, let's make a quick recap of what we found. Revenue has been consistently increasing from 2020, with a small caveat that in the last 2 quarters it was slowing down. Looking at the price to earnings history, we now have it at the levels that we saw back in 2019. The company has been buying back shares, and in 5 years they managed to take out 45 million of those. Unfortunately, even after this year's sell-off, the stock is trading at a dividend yield, which is under the 5-year average for 5.46%. Though analysts seem to be really bullish, as they expect that next year the share price will be going up from 20 to 40%. Not a similar situation with Superinvestors, as none has been buying and there was one fund selling, and insiders did buy some, but unfortunately sold way more of the stock. After checking the price chart, there seems to be some opportunity, as the stock is now trading with a relative strength index under 50, and the bullish crossover in the MACD lines is almost here, and a similar situation with the moving averages, as they have already crossed lower, so that won't be pushing the stock down, with the only exception that the 100-day moving average could be acting as a resistance. So buying right now, I would be cautious with the stock reaching those levels. And that was it. Make sure to support the channel and leave a thumbs up under the video. What do you think, is Lam Research a worthy pick right now? Share your position on it in a comment below. If you would be interested in getting access to my dividend investing watchlist, then consider memberships. By becoming a member, you will get access to Discord, where I share all my Google Sheets documents and all the buys and sells exactly when I do them. This could be a great option to track my moves closely. Last week I've looked into several other companies, so if you would be interested in any of these, then click on a video that is currently on the screen. And that was it from my side. Thank you for watching, and I will be seeing y'all in the next one.